Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome our home church. Let's start the holy song with a sincere heart. Let's prepare the song. Page 162, See Through Children's Eye. 162, See Through Children's Eyes.
Life is pure, the world is new, the sun begins to rise. Love is here and we are free to see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free, why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky. Fear and doubt shall pass away, His heart no longer cries, as we can perfect our love and see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free, why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky. Here we learn to live for all, choosing to be wise. Treasure not the things you give, just see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free, why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky. If you choose to live this way, joy will fill your life. We will give our best so all can see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free, why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky. So the truth shall make us free, why walk when we can fly on the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky.
Thank you. Next song is 38, Our Forefathers. 38, Our Forefathers.
Our forefathers built for us a beautiful land. Till it is completed, we will join in heart and hand. See the new eternal history that brings us to God. Quickly on the journey to the true eternal home. How the beauty of our native land thrills us to the skies. God has surely chosen this
Thank you. Next song is 39, Light of Grace. 39, Light of Grace.
Oh, light of grace, shining above, lighting my dim, shadowed way. Oh, light of grace, easing my day, you have shown that God is love. Long is my life and my love unto the one, God of love. No clouds may come, hiding His face, hiding the smile of my God. No clouds may come, still He is there, shining brightly. God is love. Light in my life and my love unto the one, God of love. Amid the storm, tossed on the sea, deep the hope guiding me. Amid the storm, shelter is near. Trust in Him, for God is love. I'll give my life and my love unto the one, God of love. All things decay, passing away, only the light shall remain. All things decay, still there is one true and faithful God is love. I'll give my life and my love unto the one, God of love. I'll give my life and my love unto the one, God of love.
Thank you. Let us stand up. Greet the Heavenly Parents, God and True Parents. Today is June 24, 2018, Sunday, early morning. Let us bow to Heavenly Father, True Parents. And then, hello. Please join me in prayer. 특별하게 하시는 하나님 아버지 참 부모님 안녕하십니까? Most precious our Heavenly Father, God, true parents. We are so grateful coming in front of you. Even we are not perfect, but we are chosen to be your son and daughter. We are grateful that our Christ voice is clear, your commandment is clear in our heart. We are so grateful how precious it is that your word to receive that in our heart and mind. Through your word, clear voice can awaken our original heart and mind to understand the future and understand the history. We are so grateful. Please prepare our heart to receive you well, and we can keep your word in our heart and mind, and walk with you, and sing with you, and talk with you, sing with you, Heavenly Father. We are grateful. Please guide us the new beginning of week. We can determine to promise you. We can give joy to you, and you can rejoice with us. Please guide our pastor, can give us guidance for the week, and we can understand what will come into our life. We are prepared for this week. Please guide us this time. Sincerely, we can receive your word like a children's heart. Please guide this time. Thank you very much. I offer this sincere heart in the name of Raman and Tamiko Montanaro, blessed Central Family. Aju. Amen. Thank you. Please seated. And welcome our Pastor Montanaro.
Hi everybody, good morning. It's Sunday and June 24th. It's now summer, our first sermon of summer. We're here in Gorham, New Hampshire, and we're grateful that we can have this wonderful home and this wonderful community to work within. I want to start by reading from Father's autobiography today. You can turn to page 245. Allow freedom of religion in the Soviet Union. If your edition is slightly different, just try to find the chapter, Allow freedom of religion in the Soviet Union, around page 245. There are a number of materialism-based theories that are popularly held, but not verified. One is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Another such theory comes from the writings of Karl Marx. The idea that spirit originates from matter is wrong down to its root. Human beings are created by God, and all beings are unified bodies having both material and spiritual aspects. In short, the core theory and philosophy underlying communism is wrong. While studying in Japan, I worked together with communists for the independence of Korea. They were my good friends who were prepared to give their lives, if necessary, for the liberation of our homeland. But our way of thinking was fundamentally different. So, once independence was achieved, we had to go our separate ways. I am opposed to the historical materialism of communism. I have carried out a movement for victory over communism throughout the world. I have advised successive U.S. presidents to protect the free world, standing up to the communist strategy of turning the world red. Communist countries that were unhappy with my actions attempted to remove me through acts of violence, but I do not hate them, nor do I consider them my enemy. I oppose the philosophy and ideology of communism, but I have never hated its people. God wants all people, including communists, to be brought into His oneness. In that sense, my visit to Moscow in April 1990 for a meeting with President Mikhail Gorbachev, and my visit to Pyongyang the next year for a meeting with President Kim Il-sung were not simple journeys. They were taken at the risk of my life. It was my destiny to go on these journeys, to convey heaven's will to these men. I said only half-jokingly at the time that Moscow, pronounced in English, sounds similar to must go, and so I had to go. By the way, I always think of Gorham, in New Hampshire, it's go wrong. So it's like fathers must go, this is go wrong. I had a long-held conviction regarding communism. I could foresee that signs pointing to the fall of communism would begin to appear after about 60 years from the Bolshevik Revolution, and that the Soviet edifice would fall in 1987, the 70th anniversary of the revolution. So I was excited in 1984 when I heard that Dr. Morton Kaplan, a noted political scientist at the University of Chicago, was proposing to hold an international conference titled The Fall of the Soviet Empire. I asked him to pay me a visit in Danbury Prison so that we could discuss the details. The first thing I said to him when we met was that I wanted him to declare the end of Soviet communism before August 15th of that year. Dr. Kaplan responded, "Declare the end of Soviet communism? How can I do such a risky thing?" and indicated he was not inclined to do this. In 1985, when the conference was to take place, the Soviet Union was increasing its worldwide influence, and there were no outward signs of its decline. But it's the final flame that burns the brightest. So it was natural that Dr. Kaplan would be reluctant. If he made a declaration predicting such a specific event, and it turned out to be false, his reputation as a scholar could be destroyed overnight. "Reverend Moon," he said, "I believe you when you say that Soviet communism will fall, but I don't think it will happen just yet. So instead of declaring the end of Soviet communism, how about if we say the decline of Soviet communism?" I burned with anger when I saw that he was proposing to soften the title to something other than the end of the Soviet Empire. It was a compromise I could not accept. I felt strongly that if a person has a conviction, he should be brave. If a person has conviction, he should be brave and put all his energy into the fight, even if he feels afraid. "Dr. Kaplan," I said, "what do you mean? When I ask you to declare the end of communism, I have a reason. The day you declare the end of communism, that declaration itself will take energy away from it and help bring about its peaceful collapse. Why are you hesitating?" In the end, Dr. Kaplan did indeed declare the end of Soviet communism at a conference of the Professors' World Peace Academy held in Geneva under the title "The Fall of the Soviet Empire, Prospects for Transition to a Post-Soviet World." It was something that no one had dared consider up until that time. Because Switzerland was a neutral country, Geneva was a major staging area for the Soviet Committee for State Security, KGB, and many KGB agents worked from there to carry out espionage and terror activities around the world. The Intercontinental Hotel, where the PWPA conference was held, faced the Soviet embassy across the street, so I can well imagine how nervous Dr. Kaplan must have felt. A few years later, however, he became well known as the scholar who first predicted the end of Soviet communism. We'll stop there. So, in 1990, in April, when this conference was being held, or actually when Father then, in the rest of the chapter, he goes on to talk about his meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev, and how right in front of him he said, "Your efforts for perestroika are admirable. What you're doing for your country to open it up is great. Glasnost, opening, and perestroika. But," he said, it will not succeed. And he knew this. If Gorbachev couldn't receive these words, he would be destroyed. He said, it will not succeed unless you bring God into it. Unless you allow freedom of religion in the Soviet Union and bring God into the equation, it's not going to succeed. And Gorbachev listened attentively, and he later on did as Father requested. He met with Roh-tae-woo, the president of South Korea, in a conference, and he opened up the Soviet Union to freedom of religion, and he actually disbanded the Communist Party. 4 years later, he actually attended Father in Hannam-dong, in Father's residence in South Korea. And he became lifelong friends with Father. So, Father was instrumental in bringing about a peaceful end to Soviet communism. His words, his declarations, his powerful movement, the Washington Times, the Professors World Peace Academy, Causa, all the work he did against communism, VOC, Victory Over Communism, all were designed to create an environment in which communism couldn't survive, and it didn't. And communism finally collapsed, and we know the Berlin Wall came down in 1989, and all of Eastern Europe opened up, and finally communism fell as such. But the ideology of communism and materialist ideologies are still alive and well, right? On your campus, you still have many friends and people who believe that God doesn't exist, or that even if God exists, he has nothing to do with this world. And certainly we don't have to consider God when we're considering political change or economic change. That these things are governed by laws that have nothing to do with God. This is the actually very common and popular view of political theory and economic theory. So they're very influenced by Marxist thought. If you talk to most political theorists, political scientists, and if you talk to most economists, there are many kinds of economists, Keynesian economists and different kinds of economists that believe in the free market, or they believe, some of them are socialist economists that believe that the state needs to run the economy. This is very much influenced by Marxist thought. But we find that, especially Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Party, we find a lot of socialist type thinkers in the Democratic Party, people who want to see the state take complete control of the government, of the world, of the country, that people should pay large amounts of taxes, for universal health care, universal education, free education, and all things. In Italy, the tax rate is well over 50%. If you make $100, $50 goes to the government immediately. And in Sweden, it's even higher. In most of Europe, it's very high. Most European countries are very socialist. And they have the idea that if you tax people, then you create wealth in the government looks after everybody, and it's a happy system. This is the belief. And it comes sort of from Marxism, the idea that the people themselves cannot govern themselves. They cannot handle their own affairs. Otherwise, selfishness will take over. And there's some truth in that. Capitalism can become incredibly selfish, and monopolies, companies try to form monopolies and control the market, so that if they're the only game in town, if there's only one cable company, they can charge whatever they want and you have to pay it. If there's only one store that sells food, they can charge whatever they want and you have to pay it. The problem with socialism is they forget that the government is made up of people, and that the same selfishness that you see on the individual level, you will see much bigger and much stronger on the state level. So socialism never works in practice. But there's many idealists in America who still believe, well, no one's ever done it right. We can do it right. And they keep on trying to promote these socialist agendas because they believe that the state can take care of my interests better than I can. This is the fundamental belief. They believe that somehow the state is unselfish, altruistic, living for the sake of others. But what they forget is that the senators and politicians are paid off by special interest groups and lobbyists to pass laws that protect the rights of big business and big entities and big banks. So the laws and the government is actually protecting the interests of the most powerful. And it's become corrupt. American government has become corrupt. And we know then that the real the old we're in New Hampshire actually, where the primaries all begin. The presidential primaries begin in New Hampshire, and the idea of a New England democracy, the town meeting, is still very much alive. There are many viewpoints, and there are serious arguments in a town like Orem about budget. How do you spend the tax money? How much tax money should you charge? What's the mill rate? What percentage are you going to charge based on, you know, the need the town has for education and for cleaning the roads and for building new buildings and structures? All the things the town needs to do to run come from the tax money that we pay it. And so people have things to say about how much money is spent on education or on the roads. Some people want better roads. They say, let's spend more money on the roads. Well, let's spend more money on education. Other people say, no, we can't spend that much money. We don't have that kind of tax money to spend. We have to tighten our belts, you know, tighter budgets. So there's fights every year about the budget in a small town. But in a small town, it's much more transparent. The budget is clear. Everyone can see line item exactly what's being spent for what purpose. The salaries of all the town employees are right there. You can see them. So the salaries of the teachers and the administrators are right there. You can see them. So as we spend the money, we can see exactly what we're buying with our money as tax dollars. And so this is democracy, the struggle on a local level to decide who spends what and how much taxes we can afford. This kind of idea, and how to propose like town-wide ideas to promote the town, you know, like town celebrations we're going to have next week of July 4th and things like this. The town actually spends money because the tourists come in and the money comes into the town. So if you can get more activities and events and the town can sponsor them, then money can come in for the businesses and the businesses support the local people. So the idea, in other words, is that there's transparency, there's communication, there's struggle, there's conflict, but there's ultimately harmony because the purpose is the same. We all want a beautiful town. We want a great town that we can afford to live in, but also that's someplace we like to live. You want to see that same idea that democracy is run by the people on the national level, but it isn't. We've lost that because we don't feel anymore as people that the presidency and the senators and politicians are really responding to us, the people, but really much more special interests. Big companies, big businesses that have a lot of money to pay them for their lobbying activities, you know. So this is a concern that we all have. Anyway, Father was always outspoken against these materialistic ideologies. The key to bringing success in politics or economy is not trying to work out a better system. It's when people become better people, then the system that they build will be a better system. Pretty simple, really. Pretty obvious, almost. If you have evil people building a system, no matter how good the system is, the system will become evil because the people that are running it are evil. If you have good people creating a system, even if the system has some problems and flaws, the good people will make sure that goodness is done for everybody. And you'll have a good system, you'll have a good world. So how do we become good? This was Father's first concern, always. Not government, not politics, not economy. He was thinking always, how do I help people become good? Any ideas? How do you help people become good? Well, you have to look at what it is that makes us evil and get rid of it. Where does evil start? What's the root of evil? Love, selfish love. We know that from the principle. The point is this. No matter what level you're working on, the world level, or the national level, or the state level, or the community level, or the family level, or the individual level, when we put ourselves first, when we put ourselves ahead of the family, or our family ahead of other families in the community, or our community ahead of other communities in the state, or our state ahead of other states in the country, or our country ahead of other countries in the world. When we put ourself first, we cheat and lie and steal and take things away from the other people. So selfishness is putting yourself first. Now, does that mean we shouldn't think about ourselves and shouldn't have our own vision and our own purpose in our life and our own agenda? You have to have something you want to do and accomplish. But you can't run over people to get there. You have to cooperate. You have to be very clear about your purpose and agenda, what you want to accomplish. And you have to tell people, this is what I want to accomplish. And then they can work with you. Well, I want to accomplish something similar. Let's work together and we can help each other. Or so a man and a woman is the most fundamental example. Come on up, love. So this is, men and women are different, right? Men are, different than women. It's just a fact. We're different. Men want certain things. Women want certain things. Men are very much interested in a woman's beauty. And we get sexually excited by a woman. Women make us excited. And then that excitement translates into investment. We invest a lot of love and time and money into the women that we love. Then women are not so interested in a man's, of course they want a man to be good looking, but actually they want a man to be loving. A loving, kind, considerate man is something that a woman really treasures because that man takes care of her. Why? Ultimately, the purpose of this is not for ourselves, is it? When we become one, what happens? Children come. And so the purpose, again, assigns a larger level, coming from this smaller level. So once we become one, we have to live for something greater than ourselves, which is our children. So our children come, and then the man and woman's love and character toward the children is quite different. But the woman knows that children are coming through her womb. So when the man invests his love and energy and care into the woman, it actually creates a child. And the woman knows this, and so she's looking for a loving, considerate, caring man who's not going to run away, who's going to stay around to take care of the children. And the man is looking, because he has to invest everything and forget it. He can't, I invest everything in my wife and then it's gone. It's in her, it's in the children. All the love, all the money, all the time, all the care, it goes through her into the children. So all I want is to find a place that I can receive respect. So a man needs respect for the energy and time and love that he's investing. All he wants is respect, because his position is closer to Heavenly Father, because he's in the position more of the masculine subjective energy that's giving love, like God. The woman is like Mother Earth. She's receiving that love and nurturing it and giving birth to children, and like the earth is doing. So all that the man wants is the respect of his family. And all the woman wants really is the love that a man can give. And then if we just love each other and we don't want children, we don't take care of our children, that's selfish. When we have love, we create energy. Energy is created by relationship. And when that energy is created, it creates bigger things, in this case a family. When you have two families helping each other, cooperating, and a community of families helping each other, this creates more energy than one family can do alone. Right? One family is running the restaurant. One family is running a tailor. One family is doing tax accounting. One family is doing sign painting. One family is a carpenter's family. One family is an electrician. One family is a mechanic. Every family has a specialty and a strength that they contribute to the community. One family is a dentist family, right? One family is doing good. So in a community, you have different families doing different jobs. And then that energy then creates a bigger thing. The community is much more than just the sum of its families. It creates something else. There's an energy and a joyfulness. And the kids then have other friends to play with, right? You don't want your kids growing up in a vacuum. Your kids have to play with other families' kids. And so then you need schools. And then you have teachers. And some people are teaching and administrating the school. And the kids have sports, and so you have coaches. And so you see the needs that as the family expands, it creates community. And you have all these other aspects in community. You have sports, and you have culture things, and you have different things. And then you need God. And so a pastor is someone who transmits the Word of God, who's communicating God's will through prayer and study and and through the scriptures, the pastor has to find what is God's will for our community. Sometimes he has to say things that are not popular. If the community is going in the wrong direction, becoming self-centered or in some way evil, then the pastor has to stand up and speak out. Throughout American history, pastors have always led the fight for social reform. The fight against slavery was led by Christian leaders. The fight against child labor and in the factories in the 1800s was led by Christian leaders. The fight for every aspect, every social reform came from the Christian leadership in this country. Martin Luther King is an example. The fight for the end of racism was led by Martin Luther King. He was a pastor. He was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was trained in the seminary, he was a pastor, and he was a speaker because he was a pastor. And he spoke from his pastoral responsibility to reform America. And he spoke correctly. He said, I see a day when black children and white children will walk hand in hand. He wasn't racist. There are white racists and there are black racists. It's not just whites are racist against blacks. Blacks also are racist against whites. There's hatred on both sides. But Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, he understood that there has to be love between all the races. The pastors and the Christian leaders have that responsibility. So when you have a community, it's greater than the sum of its parts. 1 plus 1 does not equal 2. 1 plus 1 equals 3. 1 plus 1 does not equal 2. 1 plus 1 equals, in our case, 9. Right? The children that came from our family, right? Going out. So this is how God created the universe, that the give and take action between subject and object parts through this relationship, energy is actually liberated. Energy is drawn into the world from God. And that energy then multiplies out. So through give and take action, we see the energy for existence. Through the give and take action of my nervous system, the parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves. Through the give and take action of arteries and veins. Through the give and take action of breathing in and out. Through the oxygen and carbon dioxide give and take action in my lungs. And the animals and plants. Through my give and take with the plants, through the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange. Through the give and take action, I exist. So existence, action, my muscles. There's always a pair of muscles, right? There's, the biceps and the triceps. One pulls the arm tight, one straightens it out. Right? You have muscles that pull and straighten, pull. Every aspect, there's give and take between two things that are in a pair shape. God created the universe in a pair system. So that all my action comes from give and take action. Between my muscles and movement and bones and my mind. And my mind and my body. My mind tells my brain, I want to do this. My brain sends the energy, the electrical signal out to my body. The brain is not talking to you right now. My brain is not talking to you right now. Can this gray stuff inside of my head think? It is a computer, right? It's a very highly sophisticated computer. It has a random access memory, which is a temporary memory. It has long-term storage, right? Hard drive. It has processor, CPU, right? It has all these different aspects that a computer has. It can process information. But can a computer think? Can a bunch of electrical shots between the nervous system, is that thinking, is that feeling, is that love? Does love and thought and my dreams and my visions and my desires come from the gray stuff between my head, in my skull? This is the question that Marxists believe is answered by saying, well, spiritual things like love and feelings, they come from matter. They actually rise up out of the energy that the matter is explaining. But that's like saying that a rock, through evolution, can become a thinking person. Matter by itself, is it thinking already then? Is there thought right in the Big Bang? Was there thought and feeling and love? And that just became more and more sophisticated? Clearly there is an existence of God. And my mind exists. It is not visible. My spiritual self. All religions affirm the existence of a spiritual self, but materialists wanted to deny the existence of a spiritual self. But if you read books like Life After Life, or Known But Unknown by Arthur Ford. He was a Christian pastor who was also gifted with this second sight. He could go into a trance and the Spirit could speak through him. And spirits would come and actually visit and document it. Houdini was the greatest skeptic, right? The magician Houdini was the greatest skeptic about spiritual phenomena. Always wanted to disprove it as all these spiritualists and seances and trances as being fake. And he went to Arthur Ford. And the most famous thing, he actually recognized that Arthur Ford was real. And Houdini actually, when he died, he had made a code with his wife that only his wife and he knew. And then he went to Ford, and the wife came to Arthur Ford and actually revealed the code that Houdini had said. Houdini said, that's the code. Houdini's wife said, that's the code that we set up. So that was very clear proof to her that the spiritual world exists. I have friends who have had out-of-body experiences. Their spirit has actually left their body and seen things. Life after life, near-death experiences, people have almost exactly the same experience. It's too much evidence. But the problem is science can't measure. Can science measure something that is spiritual? So scientists are still struggling. We can't accept it unless we have proof. But you can have proof on a scientific level of spiritual things. So we need different measuring systems. But testimony is very clear. And so the spiritual world exists. And that means the spirit is subject. The body is object. The body receives commands from the spirit. So there's give and take action between my mind, my spirit, and my body. When I put my arm out like this, why would my brain say, put your arm out and hold it in the air like this? There's no reason. It doesn't help me to survive or to eat or reproduce or anything. It's just holding my hand out here. It's just making a point. I'm making a point. Why does my brain care that I'm making some point about logic, right? Or about theology or philosophy? Why should the brain care about philosophy and theology, right? If the brain is just caring about matter, then it shouldn't care about philosophy and theology and art and any kind of spiritual endeavor like that. But I'm holding my arm out because I said to you, I want to demonstrate to you, look, my spirit is telling my body, put your arm out, and it's doing it. Now I say, close my hand. It closes my hand. And I say, stick my thumb. Make this expression. Okay? Everything that my brain does is first, well, not everything. Some things are involuntary. If you stick someone with a needle, they're jumping. Their spirit is not jumping. Their spirit is not. Their body, their parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems are making an immediate response. It's not even actually, the signal's not even getting to the brain. It's going to the spinal cord and right back out saying jump. So there are certain things that are involuntary actions. My heartbeat, for instance, is basically involuntary. It's my heart's beating, thank God, without my conscious awareness of it. Pump blood through my body. So there's involuntary commands coming from the brain to run the body, to manage the system. But when I pull my arm out, when I speak, when I think about something, when I make a plan, that's spiritual coming through the body. So existence, action, and multiplication through two people loving each other, creating children, all these come through give and take action. And everything grows to a bigger level, bigger level, bigger level. The family wants to be in a community. The community wants to be in a state. The state wants to be in a nation. The nation wants to be in the world. America can't exist anymore in a vacuum. We exist with other countries. Many raw materials that we need for our production processes come from other countries. Many things that we produce are sold to other countries. Food. We can maybe create a surplus of food through our very highly sophisticated farming practices. So we can create enough food to feed the world. And so we can sell that food overseas. Countries that may be more like a desert, they can't grow their own food. Maybe they want to buy the food from us. But maybe they have oil. And so they can cut the oil and they can sell the oil to us. So there's give and take between nations. And it creates a better world than the world that we can create by ourselves. And that the key thing is not to be selfish. If America is selfishly trying to cheat everybody else to gain for itself, ultimately that's going to backfire. And if a man is trying to cheat a woman to get her love, but to get her to have sex with her, but not actually giving love, and then he leaves without actually giving love, that's cheating, and that's going to backfire on him. It creates an ugly character, personality, that women can recognize after a while, and they don't want anything to do with him, and he can become old and lonely. And a woman, if she's cheating a man, promising to love and respect him, but all she wants is his money, which many women do. Gold diggers, right? So they marry a man just for his money. But they don't really love him. After a while, he can feel she doesn't love him. And that relationship will fall apart. And his heart will be broken, and she'll finally end up being old and alone. And so, in other words, we need to find a way to live unselfishly. In 1990, when Father went to see Gorbachev, I was in Korea, South Korea. I was delivering our new newspaper, the Segeilbo, the World Times. And I remember the front page of Father and Gorbachev shaking hands like this or something like this. It was right on the front page of the World Times, in Segeilbo. And I delivered that. I was very proud to see Father and Gorbachev, shaking hands right there in the Kremlin. And yet my life was not at that level, was it? I was delivering newspapers in the morning. I was learning Korean. I didn't even have a family yet. I was struggling as an individual member in 1990. So my life had to go through its own process. Starting a family, having children, trying to pay for it, trying to be a good father, sometimes failing, sometimes not succeeding, trying to be a good person. Father is like not just years ahead of me, he's generations ahead of us. Is any of us ready to do what Father did in his lifetime? So the point is this, that his family was already an amazing family before he was born. Incredibly unselfish, incredibly big-hearted, incredibly kind, incredibly giving. So he was already born into a family a generation, 2 generations, 10 generations ahead of us. And then he was guided by God to become the Messiah, to become the second advent of Christ, to fulfill the role that Jesus was tried to fulfill in his lifetime. And he was trying to reach the world level. And in Washington Monument in 1976, and then 14 years later in 1990, going to the Kremlin, helping bring about the demise of communism. Then finally meeting Kim Il-sung the year after. We read about that in our previous sermons. Father's level went to such a high level, even by the 1990s. So by the 1990s, he had finished his work. And he said, look, now it's up to you. It reminds me of The Rookie. Who's seen The Rookie? The famous baseball movie with Dennis Quaid. Great film. And his team promises that they can make it to the championship and win the regional championship. Then he has to try out again for a baseball team, a professional baseball team, because his arm had been injured and operated on it. But somehow, miraculously, this is a true story, in the intervening years while he was teaching science at a small high school in Texas, in West Texas, his arm healed. And when he started practice pitching to his team, he suddenly discovered that he could throw really fast. And he got up to 98 miles an hour, which is just terrifically fast. So he was training his team by throwing these 95, 98 mile an hour fastballs. They couldn't even begin to hit him in the beginning. But after a while, they could actually hit his pitches, or sometimes. So when they were in the high school level and watching high school pitching, it looked like these balls were like snails coming toward them compared to that. They could just hit the heck out of it. And they won. And then after the championship celebration, they're all celebrating. And then they hand him the game ball. And they say, now it's your turn, coach. And he's like, oh no, now I've got, and he does try out, and he actually gets accepted by the Tampa Bay Rays. He pitches 2 seasons for them. It's a true story. He was already like in his late 30s with 3 kids, and 2 kids or whatever, 3 kids. So it's a true story. So when they hand him the ball and they say, now it's your turn, coach. And each one comes and says, it's your turn, coach. Shakes his hand, your turn, coach. Your turn, coach. He's like standing there, oh boy, because he made a promise. Father said the same thing to us. Now it's your turn. He did everything. And yeah, we may be generations behind Father. But he showed us the way to do it. He said, build your family to be a blessed, central family. In our pledge, he talks about the way to become a blessed, central family. Live for the sake of the nation. In your family, be a true filial son or daughter. In your nation, be a patriot. In the world, be a saint. And in all of heaven and earth, be a holy son like Jesus was. Work in that way. Work toward that. Make your family a representative family of God and true parents. Become true parents to your community. Move heavenly fortune. Spread heaven's blessing to your community. He gave us clear guidance. But he can't do it for us. He can't grow for you, for me. The Messiah can do a lot, but he can't grow for you, and he can't do your responsibility. And it's your responsibility to become an amazing person who really embodies God. And that, what I will tell you the secret right now, ready? This is the secret to success. The blessing. Reverend Moon, Father, instituted the blessing ceremony to bless couples. After they heard his teaching, briefly, just 1 week study, and he would even shorten it to less if he had to. But in a week, you can really, if you're intensely studying, you can study his teachings in a week. And I'm willing to teach anyone who wants to hear out there for free. And I posted on my website, blessedfamilysanctuary.org, the entire Divine Principle on video. And you can also get a link for the Divine Principle book. So you can study in any way you want to or come to me directly. But through study of Divine Principle, after just 1 week, he said, then you can receive my blessing. And you can begin to work. And this is the secret. You cannot restore yourself to God's original ideal by yourself. The fall happened between a man and a woman and an angel. You cannot restore yourself without a man, a woman, and the angel. And we as men start in the position of the angel, actually. And then our wives stand in the position of Eve, who has to restore the angel through love back to his original position. Then I can stand like Adam, like a man. But right in this relationship, we can find all the secrets that were lost at the fall. The secrets of what it means to be a true human being are right here. A man and a woman loving each other liberates all the secrets of the universe. This is where the secrets of the universe lie, between a man and a woman. The goal, to be completely, utterly honest with each other. Men are ashamed of their sexuality. We feel that women cannot and will not accept all my sexual desire. Women often, now in modern society it's changing, but women often are kind of grossed out by men's sexual desire. And men feel sort of like they're dirty or they're not clean. Because of the fall, our sexual desire was invaded by Satan. But originally, sexual desire is a good thing. And it's a true thing. And a woman has to help a man to separate out the good sexual desire from the selfish sexual desire. This is a woman's responsibility, to help a man to separate the two. She cannot be ashamed of him, and she cannot run away from that responsibility. She has to be able to accept a man's love and then teach him, show him through that relationship, he can begin to realize this is good love and this is selfish. And a woman then can make a man into a true man. And what can a man do for a woman? By being a true man, by restoring our true nature, a woman then fulfills her destiny to be the partner of a true man, Eve and Adam. And then a woman can actually be happy, completely and totally happy. Receiving the love of her husband and God, and being embedded right in the family. The woman is in the center position because she gives birth to the children, and the children are closer to the mother in the beginning. She's the bridge to the children, for the Father. And as she makes that bridge, as she respects and loves her husband, the children come to respect and love the husband, and they see their mother as this doorway, the gateway to their father's love. And the mother's surrounded by love then, from the husband, from God, and from her children. She's surrounded by love. So we are destined to, in this relationship, become surrounded by love and live our lives in love. A person and a family that lives like this, when they die, their spirit is fulfilled. It doesn't need to come back to the earth in any way through returning resurrection. It does not need to visit people and try to grow through people. It doesn't need to act on the earth. It doesn't need this world anymore. It can go freely to the kingdom of heaven in the spiritual world. But as Jesus said, I leave the keys to the kingdom of heaven with you, Peter. What you bind on earth, you bind in heaven. What you loose on earth, you loose in heaven. So Peter, on earth, Jesus left the keys. That's why in the Vatican, the statues of Paul and Peter are in front of the Vatican. And Peter is holding a golden key. And pilgrims to the Vatican brush their hand over his foot to get grace from the statue. And his foot is completely worn away almost now after hundreds of years of people brushing his foot with their hand. You know, the statue standing there, giant statue, 16 feet high or something, is holding a golden key. Because Jesus left the keys to the kingdom of heaven with Peter. But what does that mean? It means that you cannot have the kingdom of heaven in the spiritual world until you have the kingdom of heaven here. And this is the beginning of the kingdom of heaven. This was the beginning of hell. Adam, Eve, and an archangel. So this is the beginning of heaven when we take that same relationship and restore it. So that's your responsibility. And I'm letting you know right now, the only way I have found any success in this relationship is by first studying Reverend Moon's teaching, the divine principle, and following it, and then receiving his blessing. You must study divine principle and you must receive Reverend Moon's blessing. And then your family can be guided by the blessing and by the divine principle to keep the right path to restore this relationship. And then you will have beautiful children who are better than you. And then your children can have children better than them. Isn't that what we want? Children better than ourselves? Grandchildren even better than that? Then the world has hope. The world has hope in blessed families. That's why we call this the Blessed Family Sanctuary and Culture Center. It's a sanctuary, a safe place for blessed families, and it's a culture center where the culture of blessed families can be spread to the world. Please join us. Please join us. Okay, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you so much for giving us your guidance and your blessing. The Reverend Sun Myung Moon, our true parents, through bitter struggle with myriads of evil forces, through struggle with Satan directly, through his deep prayer and tearful prayer as he studied the Bible, he revealed the secrets of the fall and of the crucifixion of Jesus and why this was not your original plan and what the original plan for the Messiah was, to build the kingdom of heaven on earth. And he strove for his whole life to do everything he could to bring about the kingdom of God on earth. Finally reaching the world and cosmic level, where he could actually meet with the world leaders, Gorbachev, and the presidents of the United States, the leaders of the free and the communist blocs. And he guided them and he pushed them. And with the Washington Times, he guided and pushed Reagan and Gorbachev. Father reached that level where his life had that kind of impact. And then he asked us, now it's your turn. He didn't expect us to reach that kind of level, but he asked us to reach at least the level of a tribe. At least the level of like a community. The community level. And I pray that our family here in Gorham, New Hampshire, can reach the community of Gorham and Shelburne and Randolph and Berlin and all the towns surrounding the White Mountain Valley. That our family can become a truly blessed central family, and that this center, this Blessed Family Sanctuary and Culture Center, can be lifted up by you to become a beacon of light and love and hope for the whole community here. Thank you so much, Father, for your guidance and your blessing. The divine principle, Father's teaching and speeches, and his blessing. We offer everything in the name of Raman and Tamiko Montanaro, blessed central family, 축복 중심 가정, 라만과 타미코 몬타나로 이름으로 보고드립니다. 아주 아멘. Thank you.
Thank you.